So we're back on again, and we have the Parking Authority of Baltimore City with Director Peter Little, and he has a brief presentation, and if we have any brief questions, we'll take on after his presentation. Director Pete Little, are you just about ready? Hold on. He had to get another headphone. Director Little, can you hear me? Okay, you're on. No. Mm. Testing. Can you hear me from the headphones? Okay. I can't hear you.
That's it. I think that's it.
There we
Can you hear me?
go.
All
There
right.
we go. All
Thank you,
right.
Nikki.
Thank you. Can hear you now. You're on.
All right. Good morning, Councilwoman Middleton, former Parking Authority board member. We miss you. Yep.
Yes.
And other members of the committee and council members, good morning. My name is Pete Little. I'm the executive director of the Parking Authority. With me today is our lead accountant for the Parking Authority, Nikki Phillips. Our chief financial officer, Sandra Downs, could not attend today due to a family matter. With me today also via WebEx are the Parking Authority's Chief Operations Officer, Candace New, and the Parking Authority's General Counsel, David Rhodes. The Parking Authority is a small, lean, quasi-governmental organization of 50 team members tasked with managing the city's off-street and on-street parking assets. We manage 14 city-owned or controlled parking garages and 24 parking lots. We manage the city's parking meter program with over 800 multi-space meters and over 3,300 single-space meters, helping to create availability and turnover in approximately 12,000 parking spaces around the city. We manage the city's 48 residential permit parking programs throughout the city, distributing around 30,000 permits annually. We also manage the city's residential reserved disabled parking program with over 2,900 residents participating in the program. We also regulate parking for the city, valet parking for the city, qualifying and licensing valet parking operators and evaluating and granting valet parking zone permits. And this program has greatly reduced the reduced valet parking abuses. And our parking planning division designates passenger loading zones, truck loading zones, valet zones, and it helps us to determine where parking meters should go and where they shouldn't, and what meter rates, durations, and meter in effect hours should be. All of the revenues that we collect go into the city's parking enterprise and parking management funds. After deducting operating expenses and debt service that's incurred by the city to build the city's garages, all of the surplus revenue is then transferred to the city's general fund. On the slide are a few of our performance measures. Our distribution of renewed parking permits ceased for a period due to the mayor's and governor's orders extending the expiration dates of licenses and permits, but permit renewals will resume in fiscal year 2022. And as you likely know, parking demand was greatly diminished by the pandemic and stay-at-home orders in fiscal years 2020 and 2021. But with increased vaccinations and loosening restrictions, we're seeing parking demand increase, and parking meter, garage, and lot revenues are steadily rising. Some of our initiatives for fiscal year 2022 include the introduction of multiple mobile payment services or pay by cell phone services for payment of metered parking fees, the expansion of our virtual permit parking program to Ridgely's Delight, and then to other residential permit parking areas later in 2022. Continued renovations at city-owned garages. We're taking advantage of lower garage occupancy to do this much needed work now so that we won't have to forgo paying customers as the pandemic subsides. Right. And we'll also be reviewing many parking meter locations, truck loading zones, and passenger loading zones throughout the city to determine if they're still needed. So with that, please let me know what questions you may have.
At this time, do we have any questions from council members? I see Councilman Stokes, if your
Thank
hand
you.
raised.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Little, can you explain, because I know how hard you guys work and staff work in maintaining these city garages and making sure we stay in the black, not in the red. Can you explain to the council about the new license plate, how you're using the license plate instead of using the meters for people who park, and they can use that type of the license plate as a way of paying for their parking?
Sure. Yeah, all of our new multi-space parking meters, which you're referring to, we've replaced all of the old meters, many of which were over 12 years old and were becoming less reliable. So we've introduced what we call pay by license plate parking meters, where instead of with the old meter having to buy a receipt at the meter and then go back to your car, displaying it on your dashboard, and then going to your destination, with these new meters, you come up to the meter, you punch in your license plate number, you indicate how long you want to park, you pay for that parking, and then you can go directly to your destination after that. You no longer have to go back to your vehicle and put that receipt on your dashboard. So it's convenient for customers that way, and it also makes it a little bit easier for parking enforcement as well too. That information from the parking meters gets conveyed within 5 seconds to parking enforcement via handheld units that they carry. So all of that information on who's paid for parking on a given block gets conveyed electronically to them so that they can check the license plates to the folks who have parked there to determine who has paid for parking and who hasn't. And it makes it a little bit easier actually for park enforcement because they don't have to take a look in every windshield, try to find that receipt, and then try to read that receipt to make sure that it's got the correct date and time on it.
Madam Chair, I have one more question. And Mr. Little, I know y'all rolled that program out in the business area. Can you give the council members where it already started, and are you rolling out in the community soon, and when is that target date?
Well, we've actually just recently completed the replacement of all of the old pay and display meters with the new pay by license plate meters. There aren't any of the old multi-space meters remaining anywhere in the city at this point. And we're also taking a look at where we have single space meters to determine where we might be able to replace some of those with these multi-space meters. We're getting a lot of communities, business communities that are asking us to consider replacing the single space meters with multi-space meters, just because frankly, it looks better. It reduces the clutter on the street. And so we're taking a look at that as well. But we've replaced all of the old multi-space meters at this point.
Well, Madam Chair, can I just, Mr. Little, can you that can be a request so all the council, not just the committee, but all the council people know where they're replace that, and when the plates, the meters for reading, paying with your license plates will be rolling more out, not in the business area, but in the communities too, if you have that available. And thank you.
Thank you. And so can you provide that request?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions from council members for the parking authority? Seeing no other hands, Councilwoman Porter.
Madam Chair. I did have one question related to residential parking permits. Most community associations across the city use, well, are they work with within their community associations to bring those residential parking permits back to their neighborhoods. Do you have an idea when residential parking permits will be back up and running fully functional?
You mean for renewal of permits
Yes,
specifically?
sir.
Yeah, we're taking a look at a July 1st start date to
Okay.
begin that renewal process. Now, we will go back to the old cycle that we had, trying to renew all 48 permit area permits in 1 month would be practically impossible, and it wouldn't be good for residents either. So we're going back to the old cycle. Each residential permit parking area has a month in which they renew those permits historically. So we're going to go back to that old cycle starting in July.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
Sure.
much, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Any other questions from council members? Seeing, okay, I don't see any more. So thank you, Director Little, for all that you do for our city as far as the parking garages and residential permits and all the things that deal with collecting revenue for our city and the work that your team continues to do in our city. On that note, we're in recess until 12:30, and then at 12:30, we'll have the law department that will come in, and Chair Costello will be back on board. Thank you so much. Until 12:30.